guys, welcome in to my channel. I am Paranormal with Yuri. This is my very first video on the channel, but I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit of what you should expect from the videos I will be posting from here on out on my channel, including this first video, you guys. So let's talk a little bit about that. Are going to be diving into a lot of Reddit paranormal stories here on my channel, but not only that, I also want to focus on scary urban legends all over the world as well, and just dive into all of these interesting topics here on my channel because I think that would be really fun, and I hope that you guys would subscribe and follow along with my channel. And yeah, I'm very excited to start this journey. And speaking of which, for my very first video, I will be getting into some scary paranormal Reddit stories, and we're going to talk about them and read them and, talk about our thoughts and how we feel. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah. It's actually the perfect weather outside for telling spooky stories and talking about paranormal experiences. It is raining and thundering, which I really love the atmosphere today, and I thought it was perfect to film a video for. So without further ado, we are going to get into the first paranormal Reddit story now, and then we'll talk about how we feel after and if we think it's real, our thoughts on it, etc. So let's get started with story number 1. So this happened, I think, 15 or so years ago when my grandfather passed away. In my culture, the dead are cremated and there are elaborate ceremonies performed. The body carried by people while chanting the name of a Hindu god, Ram, after it has been cleaned, clothed, and some ceremonial colors put on it. I was not very close with my grandfather. I barely remember ever talking much with him, but my parents did say I used to talk to him a lot when I was a little child. Anyway, when he died, I didn't really remember much about him other than he was well respected in the family and he was considered a patriarch. I was barely 10 years old when I was supposed to stay at my aunt's house. Sneaky that I was, I managed to follow my mother when she left my grandfather's house, unaware that I was a few steps behind her. Anyway, the ceremony starts and there's a lot of crying, and 4 people, including my father, hold my uncle up on the structure made of bamboo and wood. They chant throughout the way, and nobody noticed that I was following them throughout the funeral. They reached the cemetery, and there's a lot of crying, and I was obviously bored at a distance. It was almost dusk, and I sit weirdly now on a nearby platform. I'll later come to find out that that is some kind of memorial for the deceased. Sometime between all of this happening, I fell asleep and hours go by, and when I wake up, I see no one, just the flames burning through the pieces of wood. I panic and look around to see if there is anyone there, but of course there is no one. I start running towards the pyre, hoping some of my relatives might spot me and get a hold of me. Again, there was no one. I started crying. I look around to see if I can find my way to the street. The cemetery was on the outskirts of the town, and it was huge in my tiny mind. Rows after rows of those memorials I mentioned earlier. It was almost dark and I could hear the animals howling at a distance. While all of this is happening, I had the creepy feeling of the fact that I was being watched. It sends a shiver down my spine, and I don't even remember anything else but being scared shitless. It was such a dark and nauseating feeling and a sense of impending doom. I started to cry louder and I started running. Little did I know, I was running deeper and deeper into the cemetery, further away from the road that would take me home. I reached the edge of the open ground and catch my breath near the tree line, and then I could hear a faint voice coming from beyond the silhouette of the trees in front of me. Perhaps someone might be returning after gathering wood from there. I'm again hit with this nauseating feeling, and now it feels like it's getting stronger. To top it all off, every time I walk or run, it felt like I could hear footsteps from behind me, like someone was standing behind me. Oh my god, you guys, that is so creepy. Like, imagine experiencing this as a child just because you were curious about, one of your family members' funeral, and you end up literally falling asleep and waking up to no one there, and it's like dark and you're the only one in the cemetery. That would literally freak me out. But let's get back to it. Okay. I was so afraid that at one point I thought I might die. I took a leap of faith and ran towards the trees. The sound of the footsteps behind me grew louder, and it seemed like someone was near, almost at arm's length. Like they could just reach out and catch and hold me. I was audibly sobbing and shouting for help. There's barely any light, but I remember hearing people in the distance. Suddenly, I'm clearing, and I do see that there's a community pond with a bathing area close by. I can see some people and my family, and of course, I ran towards. No matter how loud I tried to cry, there was no sound coming out of my mouth. I remember when I was little, that's how scared I was. Finally, my aunt saw me and ran towards me. The last thing I remember before fainting is a hand on my shoulder and a hand on my body, the parts that were freezing the most. I was sick for a week after that, had nightmares for years, and in general stopped going to my grandfather's house or even that side of town. To this day, I find it difficult sleeping in the dark and sometimes wake up with a cold sweat and even a creepy feeling of a hand on my shoulder, like someone was holding onto me. You guys, I don't even know what to call the title of this first paranormal Reddit story, but I think it's so freaky being that young and like going through that. But in my mind, I'm just like, you know, that person was so young at the time and they were also in a dark cemetery. I do think they were more susceptible to seeing these, you know, paranormal entities because, you know, paranormal entities and like ghosts tend to attach themselves to younger kids because of the innocence. So I could imagine how scary that must have been. I don't know if I, you know, would personally, you know, run deeper into the forest if I was in that situation. I would definitely try to find my way out because as scary as it is as a little child to like experience something like that, I mean, obviously I would definitely in that moment try to get myself together. Because I find it a little funny that they started digging themselves into a deeper hole by running way deeper into the cemetery. But I do believe that's because they were really afraid, and of course they were still a kid, so I mean, I'm not sure what anyone would do if they were in that situation as a little kid, but I definitely think this experience is real because I don't think they would have fainted for no reason. It's definitely something scary to go through as a child, and I don't think anyone would lie about that personally. And also, you guys, it is very creepy in the cemetery, especially when it's dark, and I do feel like, you know, in the dark, in the night times, it's usually more easier to hear like rustles and to kind of hear the spirits. I mean, it is a cemetery and it is where the dead rest, so of course they are going to be more active in the night, and especially because, you know, she or he was a child, they definitely were more like susceptible to, you know, being kind of bothered and picked on by the ghosts. That's like a funny way to put it, but I mean, technically, you know, you're in the resting area of the dead, and so of course they would be attracted to specifically children. And as creepy as that is, I just don't know. If I was in that situation, I don't know what I would do. I think I would just faint on the spot. I don't even think that I would be able to think. Maybe I would dig myself into a deeper situation, but I don't know about running deeper into the forest when I'm already afraid. I think I would find a way to run out on the street rather, because that's an easier way to get out of the cemetery. But I do feel like that person was afraid because they were younger, and that's like the only reason they panicked and ran deeper into the cemetery. But yeah, if you guys, you know, were in this situation, what would you guys do? How would you feel? You guys let me know. But yeah, it's definitely a scary first paranormal Reddit experience. I think honestly, whoever that person is now is most likely still traumatized, because the ending of what they wrote, which it says I find it difficult to sleep in the dark now, and sometimes wake up with cold sweat and feel a creepy feeling on my shoulder. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I definitely think them kind of like being in the cemetery for that long, something might have attached itself to this person because they were little and they were in a vulnerable position all by themselves out in the cemetery. So something could have, attached to them when they went home that night. And obviously, if you are, Indian, or if you are a very spiritual person, you know that there are ways to cleanse yourself from, being at a cemetery late at night. There are different ways to kind of take away that attachment if something really is attaching itself to you. But with that being said, if this person is still feeling those creepy feelings and waking up a lot in the middle of the night, or still having these nightmares after what happened to them when they were little, I don't think it's just trauma. I personally think something could have attached itself to that person because they were vulnerable and in a very scary position. And also fear really kind of impacts that, experience as well. Like if you're more afraid, spirits are more likely to attach themselves to you rather than, leaving, because they think that, your fear is kind of what makes them stay. It's what makes them want to instill more fear into you, specifically if you're a child and, you're experiencing this. So yeah, honestly, it's spooky anyways. We are going to move into the second paranormal Reddit experience. First house was built in 1913. After moving in, I knew pretty much right away that I wasn't alone because out of the corner of my eye, I would always see movement in the mirror of the built-in china cabinet. I also smoked back then, and one day I came out of the bedroom to find the ashtray flipped off the end of the table onto the floor. Lots of little things did keep happening over the years, but I never felt threatened or scared, meaning the ghosts or spirits and I have coexisted in the house with no problems. My boyfriend moved in after a few years and we got married. I talk about these things and he just looked at me and he never said much about it. He often traveled quite a lot for work, so I was home alone quite often. And one night, I was on my computer listening to music and playing games. Plain as day, I was tapped from behind on the right shoulder 3 times. I screamed and jumped up and turned around, but nothing and no one was there. It honestly scared the crap out of me. I told my now husband about it, and he started opening up to me about the shadows he'd see moving around in my office. He talked about the footsteps he'd hear in the house when he was alone, and the tapping on my shoulder happened one other time after that. When we were moving out of the house and it was pretty much empty, I was there alone cleaning and I heard footsteps, the ones that he had talked about. Whatever or whoever was there started to feel more menacing towards the end of our time there. I loved the house, but I was pretty glad that we had left it. You guys, that is honestly really creepy. I don't care if, you don't feel threatened or not by certain spirits that are staying in your home. It's really eerie that they became more menacing over time, You would think that because she did say that she didn't feel threatened or scared by these spirits, that, they probably wouldn't be, evil or that sort of thing, or like bother them. But I still find it kind of creepy how these spirits would continue to make themselves known by either showing themselves or literally touching the owners of the home. I mean, it's spooky in and of itself. I still wouldn't be able to coexist with spirits knowing that they were in my home. So it's pretty much a good thing that they did decide to leave and move after that, because I think that over time, when stuff like that continues to happen, I don't think that you should, leave it alone, because I really don't think that these spirits were nice spirits. I mean, they didn't do much, but they still pretty much found ways to spook the people that were living there. And up until they were finally, leaving and finally trying to move from that house, it seems like they were getting more agitated and more restless and menacing, as the person who wrote this on Reddit said. And I definitely believe that's because whatever paranormal entities that lived there in their house, I think it really wanted them to stay. And that's the most eerie part of it all, because it's like, why would they want these people to continue living and staying there? Why would they start to be menacing as soon as they're ready to move? It's almost like they were trying to call them to like stay at that house for whatever reason. And I still find that kind of spooky in and of itself. And even if these spirits weren't threatening at the end of the day, it's still kind of scary to experience, being touched by a ghost. And then again, those ghosts aren't normal ghosts either. They are actually paranormal entities that are very much like will attach themselves to you, to the hip of you, if you give them your time of day. Because I feel like the more you're afraid or the more that you're freaked out, they love the fear from you. They love seeing that. Why else would they continue to actually touch the owners of this house? It seems as though they really wanted to spook them a little more. And whether they were playful trickster spirits, these things definitely are poltergeists, because only poltergeists are able to touch you like that and break that barrier. Regular ghosts wouldn't even be able to touch you. Maybe you'd be able to see shadows, but I think it's creepier that these paranormal entities were touching a lot of the times. And I think they were really just always trying to make themselves known, and they didn't want to be forgotten. Probably it's one of the reasons why they started to become menacing over time, as soon as they probably found out that the owners were finally moving and leaving from that house. But yeah, you guys, let me know what you think about that. What would you do in that situation? I mean, we talked about 2 paranormal Reddit stories where both times these people were touched, so it was obviously not just normal spirits, it was poltergeists. What would you do if you encountered a poltergeist? You guys let me know, because if I encountered a poltergeist, I would simply pass out. I just don't know what I would do. But I think I would actually run to the camera and film it, because I would love to actually talk about the experience, as scary as that sounds. Because I mean, I did go through some spooky paranormal experiences myself. I just been touched by a ghost before, or what we would call it, a poltergeist. Not like I'm inviting anything to do that. I'm just saying that it's crazy for the people that actually experience that, because it's it's believable, yes, but it's a little frightening to think that something on the other side could do that. Because the experiences that I've went through, it was mostly hearing things and seeing shadows, so it's more so just kind of being able to hear and see things, rather than actually get in contact with whatever these things are. Yeah, so we are finally going to get into the final story of paranormal experiences on Reddit. I hope that you guys are enjoying this video so far, and if you stayed, thank you so much. I hope you guys would like and subscribe, because I want to film more videos. I think this is so fun and so interesting to talk about. So yeah, let's get into the 3rd paranormal Reddit experience. Okay, this person says, been looking forward to a post like this so I can share my story. I actually like reading people's experiences more than trying to glean something from blurry security footage. I mean, now you guys, I have to put a comment on that. I do love watching things get caught on camera, because that's so much more realistic. It's like you can see in front of your eyes what is happening and you know that it's true. Personally, I do like reading paranormal experiences and story times as well, but from those stories you don't really know whether it's just made up for fun to kind of entertain or scare others, or if it's actually a real experience. And I'm not saying that paranormal experiences on the internet aren't true or aren't real. If so, I wouldn't be sharing these, because I think that a lot of experiences that people go through, we cannot undermine them because they are completely real. I mean, I went through my own paranormal experiences, and what I'm saying, I wouldn't want people to believe that it's fake either. So obviously some of these experiences are real, but I think on a camera you can see all of that for yourself. So that's why I also like watching footages like that, and I don't think there's a problem with that. But I think this person just prefers, reading the experiences more, because I guess that's their preference. But yeah. So, one of my closest friends growing up lived in a house that was, beyond a reasonable doubt, haunted as f***. The house was definitely somewhere around a century old, or at least now it is, and our town was situated in a very woodsy suburb. He and every member of his family had a lot of experiences there. Several of our friends had their own experiences as well, and I had my own too. Honestly, it would be impossible to try and condense it down into just one experience, and I believe it's worth sharing the accounts that I can remember. I'll start with the least scary one, which is thankfully my own, and then move to the ones worth telling. During high school, my parents went on vacation, and for a few days I stayed at this particular house of my friend. Let's call him Paul. I stayed in Paul's room in a sleeping bag on the floor while he slept in his bed. One morning, I woke up to someone whispering in my ear, directly into my ear, my name, and they said, "You need to leave now." It did not say super maliciously, almost like a warning, but it wasn't in a negative or malicious way, as he said, but that's still creepy, you guys. It definitely woke me up though, and immediately I'm thinking Paul was messing with me, as he frequently did, but I turned around to my right where he was sleeping and realized he was completely out. I said what to him, thinking he was joking around, but he didn't wake up, which meant he was definitely asleep. It was quiet and still too early for even Paul's parents to get up. Then it hit me, as it still hits me today. I heard the whisper in my left ear, while Paul was on my right side. Paul had other experiences in the same room, a few that I can remember off the top of my head. For a time he told me he suffered from sleep paralysis on a consistent level. He would very much see demons in his room and would be unable to move. He told me that very frequently in his sleep that standing by the fan of the bed would be a demon girl, and he would wake up with a jolt of adrenaline, having punched or thrown the fan down to the ground. He told me he would sometimes see someone standing in the closet that his bed faced, both asleep and awake. Oddly enough, his sleep paralysis significantly decreased as soon as he moved out of that place. Yeah, it was definitely the entities in that house causing the sleep paralysis. That floor, the second floor, where his parents and two of his 4 sisters slept, was spooky. I remember getting weird feelings from up there. One of his sisters claimed to see the ghost of a little boy in their bathroom. You guys, oh my god. His mom once opened the closet in her bedroom to find the same little boy standing in there, looking up at her and asking for his mom. I heard about that one when I was in middle school, and it always creeped me out. It's always scarier when the adults see them too. Before my own experience, I generally thought Paul was just trying to mess with me when he would tell me about these other experiences. Most of our other friends were the same way, thinking Paul was full of shit. Even after my own experience, at times I thought I just easily could have dreamt it up. But then a few of those same friends, some of them completely non-believers beforehand, had their very own experiences, and that changed my whole idea of the house. One year, Paul and his family would take a trip to have someone take care of their 2 dogs. And one of the mutual friends came over to do that just one day. When she got there that evening to feed the dogs, the house was dark and empty. For some context, the dogs were being fed near the kitchen, and adjacent to the kitchen was a dining room, which led further away in the entryway, and after that, a small living room. Well, not long after feeding the dogs, she heard a blood-curdling scream, a goddamn shriek, coming from that living room, like someone was inside with her. You guys, that is just creepy. She booked it outside with the dogs, checked for intruders, and saw no one there. I'm pretty sure after that she called Paul and told him what happened, and he laughed and said, yeah, shit like that happens sometimes. You guys, real quick, that is spooky. Honestly, if all of my friends were telling me about, these experiences happening to them in this house, I would not, think that they're playing around, because that's nothing to joke about, honestly. I feel like it's really scary to have this experience happen to one person, yet alone a lot of people that had been there. So I definitely think it had a lot to do with the house. And the fact that he said the house was old, a lot of older houses are like that. In fact, the house that I lived in Guyana was extremely old, and I had a bunch of paranormal experiences there. It's always in the old houses that a lot of these things happen, because over time I think spirits just rack up, honestly, because why else would so many things happen in a scary old place like that? And even in this new house that I'm staying in now, I stay currently in New York, and this house, I was told, is over 100 years old as well. And I think that is just scary within itself, because, obviously not just with the house being over 100 years old, but the fact that someone died right here in my house in the basement, where I had also a couple of spooky paranormal experiences, is crazy. It's no wonder that I had a lot of experiences down there, but a lot of my family has also had experiences in this house as well. So I do believe it has something to do with the house being old, like these similar stories, and also the fact that someone died here. So it's even scarier when people have died in the house that you live in, or when your house is really old, because that's when paranormal entities and a lot of paranormal experiences just start to happen. But let's talk about the other experiences, because this person went through quite a few experiences just like his friends, so I feel like there's a lot to talk about. A couple of years later, one of the bigger doubters in our group, who thought all of us were full of shit, had his own experience. I mean, look, I understand, not fully believing your friends, because they could be saying this for fun or entertainment purposes, but if a lot of my friends were telling me that they all had scary experiences of their own, I would probably believe it. But that's because I am 100% a believer, obviously, given the fact that I've had my own paranormal experiences happen to me. But I mean, let's see what happens. Paul hosted a fair amount of parties back then, and usually we would use the basement to avoid any sort of noise complaints. Now, you guys know what they say about basements, honestly. That's one of the scariest parts of your house, because that is where all the spirits or paranormal entities linger. I mean, not just because someone died in my own basement that I had those paranormal experiences, but it's because it's a basement itself that I had those paranormal experiences. I think basements are really creepy because it's just really dark. It's not a space that people usually use, and it's mostly for storage and things like that. So people don't always go down to the basement, and I think that's why they tend to linger there. Okay. So all of us are in the basement having a good time, and this particular friend of ours decides to run up and grab another drink from upstairs. Mind you, this friend is not the guy to completely get messed up. He'll likely have one beer or two at most, so for all intents and purposes, he's sober. He goes up directly outside the dining room, the entryway room, or the living room, whatever you guys want to call it, and it is extended long ways across the back of the house. As our friend was walking in the dining room to grab a beer off the table, he sees a tall, grim-looking woman standing outside on the porch. You guys, looking through the window directly at him. He knows something is wrong because she's sort of featureless and also standing outside by herself, looking inside. He takes his eye off of her for one moment, looks back, and then she's just gone. A few days later, he tells Paul what happened, and Paul tells him how he and his siblings have seen the same woman before. Our friend becomes a believer. It's so funny that he was a non-believer before this, and it's crazy to think that one of the people in the friend group, the person that didn't believe the most, had the scariest experience out of them all because he actually saw a real figure looking at him from outside. I mean, that's just spooky in and of itself. Like, if I saw that, would 100% become a believer as well if I were a non-believer, because that's just insane, you guys. Like, but yeah, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed all 3 of the paranormal Reddit experiences. If you did enjoy and you want for me to read and talk about more of these, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own scary paranormal experiences as well, don't be afraid to leave them down in the comments below, because I definitely would make a video kind of talking about my new subscribers' paranormal scary experiences. That would definitely be a fun video to film. I'll see you guys next time in another video. Bye!